Hey guys. So, Jerome's back again with you guys. Just doing a quick, you know, week of sports catch up. There are a lot of things that happened. It was very eventful. We had the Champions League. We had the NBA playoffs beginning. So for me that was a bit crazy. We had other European football and even some scenarios happening within the NBA that was kind of surprising. So you know, stay tuned. Just a quick recap of some things, some thoughts that I have on it, and I'll share it with you guys. I'm more than happy to share it with you guys, actually. So we'll see. Coming up, the outside. Hey, yeah, so we're back. So a couple of things happened this week, and it just got me thinking some things about different teams and their scenarios that they have coming up for them, especially as it relates to decisions in the future. So, like for one, I think Roma, no, it's not usual angle, but Roma against AC Milan made me think a lot about how managers and certain teams fit, and like if there's like a certain type of manager that is ideal for a specific team. I say this because since Marina left, De Rossi has not had the chance to plant his feet into the team or, made transfers or, made some drastic change. I mean, the change is drastic, but to what extent? Why wasn't this happening under Marino? Was it that he lost the dressing room? Was it that he was not, you know, motivating the team correctly or something? So it was quite fascinating because AC Milan is actually the one of the bigger teams in Serie A now, and Roma actually really played well. So that's one of the thoughts I have. Following that, with someone who played well was Dortmund. Of course, Atleti is not the same Atleti, and we all know that. Simeone's influence, the personnel that he does have at the club now, does not quite match the personnel that he used to have, and therefore he could not put his stamp down as he usually does. But it was still surprising because this Dortmund team seemed vitalized. Seemed like they had new energy. Everyone was performing, more or less, and that was as in, of course, they almost threw it away too. But I mean, it's impressive. It's impressive that they're having the season that they're having within their local league, and yet still performing in the manner that they are. So that's also something else that I had to think about, and with that, there's a team that did not perform close to what I expected. Arsenal. Now to think of it, I'm not saying that Arsenal has the 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 years of experience within European football as I would say someone like Dortmund has in recent times. Let me just clarify that. Because Arsenal has not been in the Champions League for the past 7 years, I think. Dortmund has been in and around it, but to think that Arsenal looked like they were lost, and it's very concerning because could it just be this April blues that they go through? Could this be this when the tail end comes along, they just can't find that missing piece? I saw this happen during the times when they lost to Fulham and Crystal Palace within when they lost to Crystal Palace and Fulham within the Christmas break, where it's almost like coming up to a break, they wear out a bit, you know, and it's not even just that they wear out, it's like they weren't willing to push for things. And of course, people like Saka, Ben White, so many of their players have been playing a long time for the season, but there's no one outside of maybe Odegaard that could push a random, ball forward. Something that I would say Bruno Fernandez does a lot, but it would work in that situation, someone who forces the issue more or less. But no, I'm actually very curious to see how Arsenal, puts themselves back in order within the league for the rest of the season. Although I do think that the league is in Man City's hand. Them being outside of the league, outside of the champion, knocked out of the Champions League also by who? Real Madrid. Real Madrid are just a team that thrives in chaos. It's amazing. You bring anything to them and they can figure it out in Europe. It is a marvel. It is something that I feel like going back years, they could be the worst within their league, but yet still, when it comes to the Champions League, they'll find the footing, they'll find the moment, they'll find the energy. Starting Nacho, I was worried. I was like, no, Holland might have a field day. Everyone else might have a field day, and some way, somehow, they pulled out. The Lunan, the keeper, pulled out, Rudiger pulled out, Rodrigo, wow, you know, Valverde brought that energy, that burst, that. It's a marvel. I think after a couple of years, they should actually research Real Madrid, what it is, how it's formed. It's almost like an organism. I could go to Real Madrid and end up, winning it. As I think Vinny posted something saying like, "Yo, it seems easy. It seems very easy for them. City is a machine, and they still found some way to pull it out. So that for me was also very telling, and I think on both sides because I wonder how Pep will take it. I think for sure, as I said, the league will be in their hands, the Premier League, but they do have I think it's the FA Cup this weekend also, where they'll more than likely perform well and get out of it. Chelsea. Also, just harkening back to Arsenal, I feel like the summer will be telling. As much as people will criticize and be upset about it, and I can understand fans being upset. I'm not happy with the state of which the team play and how things worked out. It's more of like what will be the next move? This is Mikel's first Champions League run. Actually, I think it's his first time in Champions League. He's not had extensive experience in Europe as the solo manager of a club. So I think probably there are some lessons learned. To some extent, it's an achievement. Your first year in it, and you go all the way to the quarterfinals. With some quality opposition, even though Bayern is not at the top right now. But yeah, they probably experience and move on from that and build on it. And that would be interesting to see how they build on it, especially with the resources and the players they currently have, and some of them the roles that they have in the team. I think that might cause a lot of changes coming up in the following season. So that might be just an interesting twist and see how they perform with that. Um, yeah. So we had that, but one that you can't forget is the PSG Barcelona one, where eventually Enrique did get away with being the quote unquote better Barcelona system manager right now, based on what he said in the pregame before the leg in Prague de Prague. I think Barcelona showed that they had something about them. I know Xavi is leaving, but they do have something about them, something that I'm sure can affect teams. And if the system is properly implemented, I think they do have quite a shot on building on something. Sorting out the finances should come in time, depending on what you do about Lewandowski and probably Gundogan and guys like that. But when you look at the talent that they do have, it is unreal, you know. And saying that, I think ultimately this might just be the year that PSG has the best shot at getting to the final because they will be facing PSG. Sorry, PSG will be facing Dortmund, and facing Dortmund. I mean, Dortmund played well last game, but I do think PSG do get the nod for this one. I really see it, especially with the fact that they aren't reliant on Mbappe. I mean, the Bailey and Barcola actually had great games. I did not expect Barcola to perform as well as he did, so I mean, just everything's working out for them now, and I think a lot is in their corner, unless it's Real Madrid. But if they do get Bayern, I could see them actually nibbing them. But I do think no, Madrid should be able to manage Bayern quite relatively easily. Yeah, so we also I would love to just touch on the fact that Liverpool is also out of a European competition. I mean, they did get a heavy 3-0 defeat and going to Atalanta. I don't think it was easy to get the three, knowing get 3 or 4 goals, knowing that you know they have to just secure it. As in, of course, Gasparini style of play is not always to defend or to park the bus. It's to play more expansive. But yeah, they managed it. Liverpool did score. They won 1-0, but I feel like they're quite comfortable. And I would say the same for Leverkusen, who somehow pulled off a win, which, I mean, he might go down as one of those. I think especially this season, it's like he might have the official invincible season because what they're doing now, it's beyond cognitive understanding because I don't get it. Like, I thought with them at least had the 1-0 to go with, to take with them on their chest. Like, at least we broke that, that streak. And out of nowhere, Jeremy Fimpong with the left foot. Yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, so now Zabi is in the three competitions, a chance at triple. I mean, he already has one, so two more. And that would just be quite an achievement in quite a year for German football. And ultimately, it made me think of something because all these years we've been speaking about the dominance of English footballers, and now we're seeing where maybe it's not as dominant as you think. Going into the semifinals, there's only one English club that survives in any of the European competition, and that is Villa, and that's thanks to Martinez. Of course, we know Martinez is amazing, but that's it. Outside of that, there's no Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, um, West Ham. All got knocked out. All are out of the competition. There are two German clubs in the semifinals of the Champions League. I mean, at the start of the season, I never saw that coming. We have French out of nowhere and a Spanish. And then we have the Italians in the Europa League, and it's just astounding. Where I think even now, I think based on the coefficient, I think it would be Italy and Germany who benefit from an extra um, Champions League place or European place. I think, and you never saw it coming, especially with the money that's in the Premier League now. So we might be looking at the English dominance a specific way, fair enough, financially, and they can attract talent. But I think when it comes to actual performances and trophy and accolades, I still think that I would put yeah, the other clubs reasonably high. Okay. And for the weekend guesses, I really believe that Manchester United. I'm just going to talk about the FA Cup. Manchester United and Man City should be the ones that make it through. I would be so surprised if these two teams don't. Yeah, I would be more than surprised if these two teams don't make it through, because I mean, like, you know, Manchester United played against Coventry, and I think that Coventry, as much as they do have an attack and they do have the capability to give Manchester United some trouble, especially with how Manu plays, as in they play to their opponent more or less. I mean, how many shots will they be giving to Coventry? You can never tell. So with that happening, I'm not sure where exactly um, they'll stand, but I do believe they'll find it in the end, especially if they do play the good team. They're full 11, which they might as well they do, seeing that they don't have much of a game week this week. And I think the Manchester City versus Chelsea game will be interesting. Of course, the God says Manchester City, as in I feel like they do have some kind of, reason, some kind of energy towards getting this result based on what happened with the Real Madrid game. So, looking forward to that. Before going into it, playoffs have started more or less. And the craziest thing to me, and it's just a thought, OKC might just be the weirdest one seed ever. There are no teams, no analysts, no commentators, no aficionados of the sport that believe that they can actually do something. And when I mean do something, as in to go to the conference final at least. I think based on what I've been hearing, it's more about, they're lucky to avoid the Lakers, which I understand because the Lakers are much bigger. They've had a good record against them the whole season. But I mean, to put them down like that, it's a bit shocking. I mean, of course we have like the Clippers going against the Mavs, which Luca will once again get the chance to do something with them. As in not knowing the state of the rest of the players. I think Kawhi had an injury, something of the sort, But yeah, so a few of the playing games have already started. I would say the Lakers were lucky, in my opinion, that Zion got injured because I think Pelicans would have probably won that. And these are the things. I mean, these are the things. It's a game of fine margins. I'm not saying that maybe they would win regardless, but that is the game of the fine margin. Like it was so interesting that, as in he played. As much as people have complained about him in the past, he ever since this season where he started off a bit rough, I can say that I think he's stood up more or less to what is expected of him. I think this is the most games he played this season, and I feel like yeah, they do have a chance because they will be playing the Kings. So yeah, they have to look into that for the next spot, for the eighth spot. Um, Speaking of Kings, the Kings got their revenge against the Warriors, who, funny enough, did not seem like the Warriors of a couple years back. I feel like it might be the end of an era. It might be the end of an era, to be honest. And I mean, you mean they had a lot going on. They had a lot, and I still think within them they still have the capability to still compete. It's just that they need to move around some pieces and some people, maybe. Maybe Draymond, maybe Clay. Clay has been a tough one. Wiggins, also, his contribution has not been consistent enough. And then they also have to think about what to do with Kaminga, you know. So that's a few things that they have. And I feel like on the Kings side, the Kings probably were more than happy to get that revenge on them because they always had them. Even last year when they had the way better record than them, the better form going into the game, and they still lost to them. So I mean, I feel happy for you know the Kings, Darren Fox, Sabonis, them to get a chance even without Malik Monk. And then on the East, the Sixers won, um, and that's because, well, not because, but Jimmy, Jimmy was out, and they had to find a way to win. But I think they managed. Yeah, I think they really managed themselves well. But the Sixers definitely now put themselves into a position where they can be, you know, fighting against the second seed. I think, yeah, because the Bulls beat Atlanta, which I mean the Bulls are the Bulls are this year's Heat more or less Heat. Not exactly the same because the coaching might not be of the same level of exposure, but they just have this friskiness and the fact that Kobe White is finding that form and the way he's playing, it's just yeah, anything can happen in a game. So yeah, I mean that's I think it should be interesting because tonight I would say so the Bulls will be playing against the Heat without Jimmy, and I think the Bulls will be able to get it done. And then on the west side, I think the Pelicans, yeah, the Pelicans will be playing the Kings. The Pelicans without Zion, but they do have the depth. And if Bi can find it, if Brandon Ingram can actually work back on his fitness, I think I'm actually going to take the Pelicans to win this. They might have problems on the board, but on the boards, but for sure, I think outside of that, they should be capable. So I do see that coming. So we'll have the Bulls and the Kings going through for this one. Um, the Bulls and the Pelicans going through for this one. So we'll see how that plays in the future. Um, in other news, I just catch the sprint qualification, which was quite fun to watch for Formula One today. Yeah, it started raining, and I think it went Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, and Alonso for the top three. Which, I mean, no one saw that coming. No one actually saw that coming. And it was a really good race. I mean, it was difficult for these drivers on the Inters to manage it. So I think I have the top five in front of me. The top five here is Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Max Verstappen, and Carlos Sainz. So yeah, as we see here, I mean it's just a mixture, a mixed bag for the sprints. But yeah, I mean this week, if it does not rain, we know who will win the Chinese Grand Prix. But outside of that, I think based on the sprints should still be interested based on weather and stuff. So that's it. That's it, guys. Thanks for joining, and way out.